Hi, I'm Paul, and I'd like to discuss what learning walks can do in UK schools. Ofsted inspectors are given two categories to observe in the classroom: quality of teaching and behavior and safety of students. I've taken the quality of teaching and broken that down into several categories, and in each of those categories, given you what things to look for to make decisions. More importantly, what things to look for, and when they are a bit lacking, to be able to suggest the appropriate professional development to remediate the teaching and improve the learning in the classroom. When you log in, you will see the eWalk application, and when you click on it, you now are at the main menu. Setup is where you build the templates, which are the forms that you use. I'll come back to that in a second. Walkthroughs is where you do them online or look at the ones you've done and edit them or delete them. And reports is where you get the reports on what data you've collected, where you can disaggregate and aggregate the data. The mobile desktop is where you get apps for Blackberries, Palms, Windows Mobile. But if you're using Androids or if you're using the Apple iOS systems such as the iPhone or the iPad, those come from the respective stores, the Apple Store or the Android Store. However, if you want to walk into the classroom with what we call desktop, which would mean a netbook or a laptop, whether it be Apple or Windows based, this app you can download from here, and what it will do is allow you to record data in the classroom without having internet connectivity. Now, going back to walkthrough, I will take a look at what the walkthroughs are like. So right now, for the lesson walks in the UK, I built the Ofsted one, which is a comprehensive one covering a lot of information, and broken that down into individual ones on behavior, culture, curriculum and teaching, planning and organization, and the use of technology. So if we look at the complete Ofsted one, and I'll pick a school, which I'll pick the Hogwarts Public, and there's the staff. Let's pick Harry Potter. Working with Harry Potter, we can now start to record what we observe. So there are a whole series of pull downs. I've made this to be as positive as possible. You either observe it but it's done really well, or you don't even see it at all, but you expect that you should have. Now, if you don't see it and it's not expected you would see it, you leave it as non-applicable, and that data isn't even counted when you do your reporting, unless you specifically want to count it. So I'll leave this one not to be counted, and then we'll look at some of these other ones. Now, there's a lot to this one, and I broke it down into planning and organization, curriculum and teaching. In here, we're actually, as part of the teaching is concerned, we can track whether the teacher engages all the students or if they ignore the kids at the back of the room. As you'll see, this is what I'm doing right now. At no time do we click on students at the back of the room. If we want, we can count whether they favor one gender or the other. So if we see something like this, we can point it to the teacher that they seem to favor the boys over the girls. And we can also point it to the teacher that they ignore the students at the back of the classroom. Now, further down, we've got concept development. So under concept development, it's not a matter of having something to pick whether you observe it or not. We want to know what you observe. And so this is a checklist where we can check off what we see. And under this one, I also made it possible to record a note. So if you want to record a note about concept development, you can do it right here. And then we're into differentiation. And then we're into classroom culture. And there are a series of items you can select under classroom culture. and then professional practice and development. And so based on everything we've seen above, we can use the Ofsted rating scale as to what does this mean. And by clicking good, and here's a description of good, then that sets it to be good. Then we move down into the behavior of and safety of pupils. Again, when all of these have been checked, and let's just say that in this case the teacher doesn't do anything in particular exceptionally well. Let's say except for this one. And so based on this, we could say that they probably rank as good. And so that gives us the rating here. And then lastly, if you want to track technology use, we've got it here, and there's a rubric here that talks about the use of technology in the classroom. When you're done, initially you click the little stopwatch here, which records the end time. So you can see I've been doing this for 3 minutes. If you do any other editing of this thing, you wouldn't change the time. What you would do is click either the save button up at the top or the save button way down here at the bottom. Save and done just get you out of this. Here you can see all the walkthroughs that I've done so far. And these are the ones I've done. If I uncheck the view my walkthroughs only, I'll see any walkthroughs or lesson walks that were done by anyone else. And you see there's one here that was done by Mr. Dumbledore. And this one I cannot delete, I cannot edit, I can just view it, print it, and email it to the teacher. Emailing is interesting. If you want to give feedback to your teacher, all you do is pick one, like the one I just did. We typically get, when we get the roster of your school, we get the email addresses. So the email address would typically be filled in here. If you don't have it, you just enter it yourself. If you want a copy to go to yourself because of what you say here in this note, you just tick it, and then you make a note, like something like, I really enjoyed this class, and just click to send it. The teacher will get an exact facsimile of everything that you recorded. And they can also see what you said as far as the summary is concerned and what they would need to do to actually improve. So that's how this works. Now, if we go back onto reporting, then we start to see what this all tells you. Now, we have standard, a lot of reports. The most useful one, though, is the overall template report. And when I pick it, if I'm the principal of just one school, I would only see my school. If I was the principal of several schools, I would see whichever schools I could have access to. And if I was at the school board or school district level, then I could see all the schools for which I'm in charge. Now, I'll just pick the Hogwarts school, which is probably all I would see since I'm the principal of it. And the date range can be anything you want. You can say last year, last month, this week. I'll do submit, and the one I want is this Ofsted framework. So give me a report on the Ofsted framework. What I've got here is the results of 8 lesson walks. And as you can see, 25% of the time things were observed, but 37.5% of the time things were not observed as far as resources being directly related to the purpose of the teaching. So we can very quickly see just how our school is doing because this is using all the walkthroughs on all the teachers. Now, when they're pull downs, which most of these are, you see pie charts. And when we hit checklists, then what we do is we give you bar graphs. And you can see that most of the time we were looking at reading, discussion, and summarizing note-taking. We saw very little non-linguistic representations, and only 25% of the time did we ever see kids working on worksheets. 12.5% of the time they were generating and testing hypotheses. Now, if I jump up to the top, whoops, we go back up to the top, we can start to disaggregate data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, show me only the walkthroughs on mathematics and science, and only for grade 10, because I want to discuss this with my math and science teachers. Click on Apply Filters, and now instead of 8 walkthroughs, we've got 4. And so now we'll see the results in mathematics and science, grade 10. Now, I'll do one other thing to give you an example of how we can disaggregate data. Let's pick Hogwarts Public School, because that's all I've got access to anyhow. And let's say we want to see only those done on Harry Potter. So now we're going to see how Harry's doing. And 5 walkthroughs were done on Harry. And here are the results for Harry specifically. And looks like he was doing pretty good compared to a lot of the other teachers. So that's what's involved in working with the reporting in eWalk. Now, I also want to give you a quick idea of how we work with these templates. If I want to make a new template, I give it a name. You have to decide, do we want to identify who the subject of the template is? And in most cases, we want to know who the teacher was. If we didn't want to identify the teacher, we could just say none and it would be anonymous. If we had a template we've already been given to use and allowed to copy it, we could copy it. In this case, I'll be looking at making a new one. So I click on Next. And now we talk about these things we call filters. I would like to know what grade this was. So I'm going to say, show me the value list of grades, and start off by telling people to select a grade. I'd also like to know the subject. And I built a list of the subjects. So I'll pick the subject areas one, and there they are. And again, I'll start off by saying, as a default, select the grade. I'm now going to be able to build my template, my form. We let you make as many pages as you want. You can name the pages, and these are all the things that I've built. Now, everything I did for Ofsted is here. And if you want to use something, you just click on it to put it on the right side of the page. It's just that simple to build your templates. I want to make a new page. And on page 2, I want to put some different things. And one of the things I'd like to do is get a picture of a teacher using a variety of assessment methods. So what I can also do is open this up, say that I'd like to put in media capture, and when the teacher goes to use that, or when the administrator goes to use this, for this particular item, a variety of assessment methods are used, then they'll be able to take a picture if they choose to. If you want to use a checklist, you click on this. There are the checklists I've got. I've only got one in concept development. It's now going to use it. I can say it will behave as a checklist, or it'll behave as enter a number, or every time they click on it, it'll increase by 1, or I can actually make a list to be able to rate things in it. If I want to check and see what does this look like, I just click on the little icon for viewing, and that's what's in my list. And if I say, yep, that's the one I want to use, then I just leave it at that. And I could just save this, and that would be my new template. I think that should suffice for now. The iPad has a real-time dashboard which shows you the results of what you've done so far. To do a new walkthrough, you pick it. There are the templates that we built. The Ofsted framework is down in the middle, but the other ones are there. I picked the Ofsted framework. I picked the the Hogwarts School. We're picking Harry Potter. We're now going to create the form itself, and now we're going to go through it. So I'll pick a grade. We'll pick a subject, and then we can rate each of the items that we've got on our iPad template. You'll see that planning organization is one area. Then we've got the teaching, and here's an example of tracking where the teacher engages the students. I didn't bother counting the boys or the girls, but I could have. In this case, you'll see that the students at the back of the room are being ignored. And we can make a note about that by clicking in the notes. Then we can continue on. Here's an example of the checklist for concept development. So some of the things that we observe are being checked off. We can make a note if we feel it's appropriate. Here's our classroom culture, our professional practice, and here we have the Ofsted rubric to describe what we've seen so far. Then we've got one on the behavior of the students, and here's a technology one. So this is a fairly large template to do, and you'd have to be in the classroom for quite a while to be able to do this evaluation. And that's why I built 4 separate focused ones and took each of the 4 areas of this template and made them a template to use. Here you see the one I've recorded, and I'm going to upload it, and it takes that long. That's how the iPad works. And down here is the dashboard, which you can see, and that shows you the latest information that we've had on using this particular template.